So there you have it. Rumble, big move yesterday. And I really have to see where these open because, as I mentioned, I am long some stock, and so it wouldn't really do me any damage, to sell. Like I'm looking at like a 17 maybe. It's a big spread though, 205 to 120. It's still staying bid though, up here at 1301, so it's not completely like it's still holding up here. And so anyway, I might decide to do something there. With Rumble. Just to try and take advantage of this IV rank. I mean, if you don't have stock, I think it's kind of a tough. I think it's a tough go. I don't really think there's going to be much to do on the put side. I mean, if you have a little, I'm sure margins aren't horrible in here. I mean, probably something like a ratio wouldn't even be bad. But you're going to have to see how these markets open. Because as they sit now, I don't really see any way you would be able to do anything. So, and I really need to see how these markets open because, like, again, there's like, look at the spreads in here. They're just horrible. Horrible. And then for those, we still have American Airlines had a shutdown today because of technical issues. Stock down a little bit. You would think from the headlines, you would think it was down $3. It's down like 20 cents. But it does, I'm actually looking, I'm interested because I want to see if it bleeds into the other airlines like UAL and Delta because we're actually short. I'm actually short those underlyings right now. And so as far as everything else, that's it. I'm going to have to just sit on our hands, see what happens today, and let things go. So have a good one. Merry Christmas. And be back on All right, I'm going to try this again. This is messed up. So I'm having all kinds of problems here with YouTube. I have no idea. Like everything's just like it's just a weird like thing going on here with the stream. It just keeps. And I think it was because it was some way they had OBS set up, It was actually like, I don't know. It was actually, something was weird. I shouldn't even say it's weird. It's just I haven't done this in so long. It's probably they changed something and I wasn't aware of it. And now it seems to be working again. And using the old setting I had for Get Soft in the Morning, for whatever reason, it was trying to stream using some other thing. And I was like, where the hell is it going? And so anyway, here we are. So Delta Airlines, UAL, and American, right? American Airlines has a glitch today. News headlines that all flights canceled this morning from American Airlines. I don't know where that currently sits, but it's really not damaging the stock too much. I would think from the headlines, it would be down, $1 or $2. It's down like 15 cents. I think the news of the morning is probably twofold. Is AMD on the move again. And happy to say it's like nice to be on the right side of the trade there. And that's up. It says 2%, but that's up about $3 in pre-market trade. And to our benefit, we're probably going to dump out of those puts. There ain't going to be any reason to hold on to those because not only has the trade gone in our direction, but this volatility in here, which when we put this on, AMD was at around 70. Right now, it's banging at about 28. So, it's pretty much exhausted itself. So it's going to be time to flip out of there on AMD. And other things in the news, we have Tilray, which that has a pretty high IV rank at 93.7. I don't know if there's really much to do in here. I've been looking at this stock, and I actually unfortunately got railroaded into this thing back in, I think it was 2020, when it had a big pump and dump. And I got short some puts, and I ended up, I think it was a whole thing. I got short puts. It tanked. My puts got assigned, so I got stock. And then I started selling calls against it, and I think I just got into this perpetual loss thing with it, and it just completely tore me up. And when I say tore me up, I mean I didn't lose like $10,000. I probably lost $1,000 or whatever. I don't even know what it was. I know I lost close to $1,000. And usually when I lose that much on one trade or one instrument, I remember what it is. If it's usually anywhere near 1,000, that's kind of where it kind of sticks in my memory. If it's a couple $100, I'll usually forget about it. But anyway, that's kind of sticking in my head here. But I don't know if there's anything to do here. You're gonna have to see how these options open. $1.50 stock is a really tough one to kind of play around with options in the first place because, at $1.50, but it is hard to borrow, so you can't short it. You're not going to get stock to short. So you're not shorting that slob. And I don't know what there is to do, if there is anything. Because if you look, even just look at the chart, the stock's been a piece of garbage. It's a perfect stock for, the pump and dumpers because it's $1.50. You can buy it for, if you bought it, earlier, late last week or even yesterday, you're sitting pretty today. You're looking to dump out, because you made 10 cents. If you bought 10,000 shares or whatever it is, you're looking pretty solid. So there's that. I mean, and there's not really much else, anything hitting the tape that I see. If we look at the ES, that's I think all the indexes are up slightly today. Yeah, we got the ES up 7. The NASDAQ is up 48. And the Dow is the only one down. Even the Russell's up 250. Still looking at the natural gas. Natural gas had a pretty decent, you couldn't have pinpointed this better, right? Outline this, the little double, quadruple top, right? A lot of resistance up here at this 30, what is it, 354, whatever, right? At about 350 here on natural gas. Pretty decent touch and a complete breakdown yesterday, but volatility kind of coming off too, right? It has gotten high as 94. I think when I put my trade on natural gas, volatility was in near the hundreds. It was in the 90s for sure, and which attracted me to it. But now you can see volatility is kind of collapsing a little bit in here, and so is natural gas. Actually had a nice pullback yesterday. That's a pretty big move. You got to remember, natural gas, a big contract, and that's a pretty big move in natural gas. But we look like we're painting a somewhat green candle today, a little bit of a bounce. But that trade, the trade that we have on, which is Iron Condor in here, really hasn't come in yet. That one's not going to probably come in until sometime in January, because we're out in the January expiration. So there you have that on the natty gas. But still, volatility still elevated, I would say, but not not tremendous in there. And as I said yesterday, which I don't even think the stream went out yesterday and the day before, is that that trade really only had a limited time frame before it actually ran out of gas, and no pun intended. But I think at this point, and now that volatility has started to collapse here a bit, I think that trade's kind of dead. But there is definitely some there is definitely something kind of building here in natural gas in this range. You can see we have been stuck, going back as far as July, we have been stuck here. And so what's going to be crucial in natty gas is, do we create a new base in here, or do we retest these lows? Again, if and or but, whatever. Hindsight, if then else, right? Like a stupid basic clause. But I mean, really, what's going on here in natural gas, I mean, this is the story for me in natural gas. If it can get out above there, if it can get out and bust out of there and break out, and if it does, chances are natural gas is going to hit $4. It will. I really believe that. It's kind of like there's really a strong ceiling in here right now, short term, at this price. And if and when it does blow out of there, I think it's going to be like almost like a blow off type of thing, where you're going to see a huge, one of these huge candles in here where it just kind of just blows out. And as you can see, the ranges are getting wider and wider, right? Look at these trading ranges. I just focus in a little bit. You look at these daily trading ranges, right? And you can see small range, pretty much small range, down, down, down. And then as we got in here after this bounce, these trading ranges have actually grown, which again, when you have these big trading ranges, that's what actually pumps the volatility, right? It's usually volatility starts to shrink when you get these smaller and smaller ranges, right? Because things stabilize, things aren't moving as much. But lately, natty gas has actually been quite a mover. Both directions, not just up, but in both directions. So just something to keep an eye on. I mean, that's really the only thing in the energy sector that looks overall interesting to me, because outside of that, everything else kind of stinks in the energy sector. Even crude oil looks pretty horrible at this point. Literally no volatility at all. We are stuck in this range since October. We really haven't broken out over $71, and we really haven't broken down under 66. And, with volatility being at 24.9, you can't even sell. It's not even worth selling volatility in natural gas. And then you kind of mush over to like the likes of like an XOP, and an XLE where you kind of get into the ETFs and the stocks, you don't really have any volatility at all to really do anything. So if you're going to do, and overall, oil has had a horrible year, and so have the oil stocks. You can see it's been pretty much a burn down almost all year, with a few kind of blips to the upside, but they've been selling the rallies hard. And I don't know if that continues. I mean, I'm looking at next year, and I'm trying to set myself up a little bit, kind of thinking like, hey, look, I mean, does oil kind of catch a bid here in the first 3 months of the year because it's gotten beaten down so much? I don't know. I wish I could do something else besides just buy freaking options, but you can't. One idea that I had, and I actually done it not in XLE, was an Oxy Petroleum, which is one that had a high IV rank and actually has since dissipated, and also Apache. I kind of just sold some puts. What I like here in the XLE, if you want to get long, I mean, you're going to have to kind of deal with like a calendar spread type of thing. And then you're going to want to go in the money. Like I like the 80 calendar spread if you want to get long oil, and go out to March. Not a long-term play. You may get a decent, and all you're looking for here is a bounce. You're not looking for a huge move, because realistically the overall outlook in oil, although I don't think it's bearish, I think it's pretty much like nothing-ish. I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing. I don't see us really going I don't see prices really elevating, and I don't see prices really dissipating. So I kind of see it being a status quo kind of, unless something happens otherwise. And I think what's adding a lot of stability to oil right now is the hopefulness that possibly maybe some of these wars are kind of wrap up and finish. And I don't want to bring politics into it. I'm just saying, like, what I think is, like, let's not get crazy. I don't want to bring politics into it, but oil is something you kind of have to bring politics into. There's nothing you can do about it. But I would be looking at something like a calendar spread, like a February, March in the XLE. That's kind of a way you could, get a little, and it's weird because like the delta in this trade is actually negative. But you can see when you look at Theo price and everything else, it is technically a bullish trade. But you're not going to make a ton of money in this. But it's kind of to me, it's kind of a bit of a nice small trade to do without kind of piling in and get yourself crushed. I mean, you're only going to use $140, so that's the most you can lose. XOP, kind of the same thing there. And I know it's kind of against the overall consensus of where the talking heads think oil's going to go. But, and that may be true. Oil may have a rough year, but I just believe it in the first of the year here, from January to March, and at least January, February, I think crude's going to get a little bit of a bid. I don't think it's going to go crazy, but I do think it's going to get a bid. And it's going to be short-lived. It's not going to be anything, extravagant, but I think it's going to be enough. Because I really just, as far as like commodities are concerned, that's really all I got there. And then, you got the likes of like Tesla too. That actually yesterday, they just killed volatility in there yesterday. They just smashed it. This thing was running over 100, and now it's at about 74. And a lot of the option premium came out yesterday in Tesla on that move up. All right. And then just going down the list here, and I always look at this list every morning, high IVR, high option volume, because to me, it's come to be the best list that I've seen of stocks to trade that are liquid, right? Because isn't that the whole key to this whole game is being in stuff, it's easy to get in trades, but you need to get out. You need to be able to get out. If you can't get out of trades, you might as well be at a loss, because if you can't get out of it, it doesn't do you any good. And and I'm just kind of looking here at the GDX, which is the VanEck, which is the VanEck ETF that does the gold miners. And I know there's been some talk, and gold's been kind of taking a hit of late, and it has a lot to do with the dollar strength. But I don't know if there's anything. This is one of those ETFs that I've had my struggles with selling volatility. Anytime I've sold volatility in this, I've always gotten a bit clubbed up. And the only time I've actually really made money in anything gold, pretty much, was just being directional. And in here, I don't even know if you want to be. I mean, I don't know. Does gold continue to kind of get clubbed up here? I mean, the dollar looks like it's due for a little bit of an ass whooping. It's had a great run. But I don't know. Just sticking it on the radar. I don't know. But it's coming up on the IVR listings now. IV ranks almost 60. So I just put it on the radar. We'll see if it stays here, if IV gets elevated. And then you look, I always have this in the last 5 days, right? It's really important. Are things expanding in here or contracting? And over the last 5 days, it's actually been expanding. So you always want to be in those names that are expanding in volatility, or at least get in them while it's expanding. So anyway, that one's on the radar. I don't know if I really do anything today. I think if I was going to do anything, I'd like to see gold maybe take another shellacking a little bit, and see this thing back down under $33, and I'd probably be all over selling some March puts. All right, and so that's it. So I think I finally got the stream figured out, and there you have it. And I don't really see anything else hitting the tape. And so that's it. That's all I got. So it's have a Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. I think that's weird this year because Hanukkah's after Christmas. Don't get it, but hey, whatever. That's fine. Hanukkah's after Christmas, so we got elongated. So have a good Christmas and a happy Hanukkah, and I'll be back on Thursday, I guess. And I finally got the stream figured out, so that's cool. And so I think we're back. It's been a long time, over a year, maybe a year and a half. Who knows? But